Hey, what's going on, guys? So we've spent the first evening of PTR doing a lot of work on Bone Spirit, testing out some stuff with it, checking out the new uniques for it. I think we're pretty happy with where we're at with it. So kind of just some things from the PTR that have really been awesome for this build. Definitely think this is still going to be the number one build. I don't, talk to one of the higher geared out, higher minions, Ruse, if y'all may know him from Goblin. Talked to him this evening about his mages. They're still doing great. Minions are still doing great. They're going to be fine. But we started talking about damage. It's pretty astronomical how much more this build's doing than any other Necro build at the moment. The high hit for today so far, and again, this is just early PTR. We haven't seen all this stuff yet. But we did hit 8.5 billion tonight. And I'm going to, in just a second, we're going to go over how that was possible and what all that looks like. So let's go over the new uniques first that we're putting in this build. Talk a little bit about everything we've done in the PTR, but I want to go over a couple of the uniques first. So these boots are freaking awesome. These are the new Bone Prison boots. They're really cool. They have a couple of really cool interactions. First, what do we care about? Max Essence. Well, every time we cast this, every time one of these splinters hits something, we gain an additional 2 up to 10 seconds of this, up to the amount of splinters we have. So in this case, we've got 20 splinters, so we're going to get 40 max essence on top of that. So when we cast this, it's going to start ticking this, and it's going to show that we have a maximum essence increase for every time it hits a mob. So this is pretty cool. If you do hit a bunch of mobs, this does scale up pretty quickly. So this is super impactful for when we start scaling into large, higher content, and we've got large groups of mobs. That hits very quickly, and it scales up pretty quickly. Second thing that this does is this is actually paired up now with the new aspect we get for this build called Imprison Spirit aspect. So what happens is when you cast this and you hit a spirit, you get a second trigger of spirit. It's a second cast of Bone Spirit, and it's at 70% of its value. So earlier tonight, we hit a 5 billion first initial hit, followed by a 3.5 billion hit from this. So 8.5 billion damage from one single hit of Bone Spirit. And that was on multiple mobs, so it actually hit another mob for 4 and 3, hit another one for like 4.5 and 3.2. So that was just one single Bone Spear that was into the 20 billion damage total. It's absolutely wild. For the other unique that we got for this build is Crown Evolution. This helmet is absolutely bonkers. It doesn't matter what build you're running. If you can slot this in, it's going to be best in slot for the build as long as you can use a spender. So what this helmet does is every time you use a skill that uses essence, it's going to give you a stack. And as you can see on our hotbar here, I'm just casting Decrepify, and I now have a 5 stack of this helmet, which gives me 5 by 22. So 110x damage on this. And since we don't care about essence cost, we just care about the essence itself and the damage done. That's a huge multiplier for us. Why it's so good for this build is we also get the max essence and core skills. This helmet is fantastic in this build. So overall, Bone Spirit still is absolutely going to be king. Really crazy. Now, a couple of things we've been testing tonight. So with this being a splinters, and we do have access to a multitude of temperings. Previously, we were tempering in Bone Spirit size. Well, we don't need that anymore. I mean, it's great to have, but we actually have a better option by slotting in these boots, and this is going to be the double cast for splinters. So as I said earlier, we would expect a 20 stack if we hit every single one of our splinters with this. But now, with this chance to double cast, you can see here, we'll immediately go over 20. We're going to get near 40 stacks on this one mob. So with the double cast of splinters, it is going off. Now, if you're trying to sit here and count to 40, you're not. But you do see that there's double damage every time one of these hits. So what this means is it's just a visual thing. It is double casting. They're just simultaneous. They're lined up perfectly. It's just a clone of the other. So that is working. So that's a neat little change to this. We got some temperings for it. That's pretty cool. Some other things we've gotten from this evening. The new Amulet, I don't have one, but the, what's it called? Lucan's Talisman. The tooltip itself shows additive, but Macro did a huge little walkthrough of it earlier. It is 100% confirmed by a couple of sources now that damage is actually acting as multiplicative instead of additive. So one thing to keep an eye out on is that amulet by itself is likely to put Bone Spear, for you Bone Spear enjoyers, back on the map, especially considering that damage is going to scale those echoes directly, which is primarily where the damage from the Bone Spear build is coming from right now. So that's pretty amazing. Some other bugs that are happening, that we still have the Bone Prison bug where we get the extra minion with Requiem. So we get the extra essence there. We still do get the extra essence from Bone Prison being cast, as those are minions. Couple things for you guys to be on the lookout for if you're running the new hordes. The keys and the scrolls are incredibly rare, but I wanted to go over because this question's been brought up more times than I can count. All right, scrolls. Scrolls are the ways that you upgrade your compass. You can only loot a tier 3 compass, at least that's all we've seen. So, that's all we've seen so far is tier 3s. You start at tier 3, you run through it. At the end of the horde, you have 3 chests that you can open. You can open an equipment, a material, or the Grand Cache, which is 250 Aether, and typically we have not seen any. We've been running these all night. You're not going to get anything other than 70 to 100 in the lower tiers. But what you want to do is you open your materials cache, or the chest there, and it has a chance to drop a scroll. That scroll is how you upgrade the next key. Until they fix this is bugged, however, if you zone out with your scroll without using them, it disappears. So just be mindful that if you're going and you're wanting to upgrade keys to do higher level tiers of your horde, you want to take another compass with you to upgrade that, because if you zone out, your scroll will disappear. One thing to note about this is the actual first true group content we've seen. These hordes are actually substantially more fun, more enjoyable. They even give you more Aether if you're running in a group, because you can clear the content faster because the zone is kind of widespread. So kind of a neat little mechanic that we finally have group content. So the other thing with this is the scrolls are tradable. So if you go in and do a horde and you each drop 1 scroll, you can trade it to one single person. They can use all the scrolls to upgrade their key, and you can get to a higher tier quicker. Fair warning, the scaling of the horde levels is incredibly intense. Going from 3 to 5, you see a drastic increase in mob HPs and damage. But then going even from 5 to 7, it's crazy. And tier 8 is bonkers. But it's very fun. It's a fun experience. So that's pretty much what we worked on tonight. We did a whole lot of testing with Essence. And did we maintain it for this build? Today was pretty much just Spirit Day. But tomorrow we're going to be working on Blight. But that's the state of the PTR so far for us. It's been really fun, even though there was some dire moments in the patch notes. There are things that are in a good place. Now, that being said, there are still some very poor performing builds. Haven't tested anything other than Spirit tonight, but talking with some other Necros that have been running other things, there is some builds that are not going to be really meeting the standard to push with. Blight may actually be all right. I've done some again a minimal amount of testing with it. We'll do some more tomorrow, but overall, not as worried about Season 5 as we were when we got the patch notes. They do seem to have some direction. But that being said, a lot of that extra power we got back is going to be from the Crown of Lucian. So keep that in mind, that's where a lot of the power is coming back. All right. If you guys got any questions about the PTR, if you want something specifically tested, especially you console guys that can't, Friday of this week we're going to be doing testing from anybody that has any special requests. So if you got something, drop it in the comments and I'll put it on my list for Friday. If not, we'll see you guys tomorrow, and I'll do another recap tomorrow evening. Thanks a lot. Have a good night.